All right. We have the Korean laming strategy for you today. Now, we're going to build one villager with Koreans, then we're going to get loom, and we're immediately going to send this villager forward. Now, the reason that we're doing this with Koreans is Koreans have a great bonus in which their villagers get plus free line of sight. Also, there's great follow-ups for this strategy. I was inspired by Feli, who did this at 1500 elo. He actually uses two villagers. I decided for myself, I prefer using one villager. That way I have less idle economy, but, adapt the strategy however you would like. I think the best follow-up, he used war wagons, and the laming is already paying off as we got a sheep. So now I know immediately that he's somewhere over here. I think the best follow up for myself is archers or tower rush, or maybe a combination of both. I guess you could also do scouts if you really, really wanted to. And we're going to try and wall in these berries, but we realize that there's a boar, so we're going to try and steal that boar before just trying to deny our opponent from resources. We want to make things as messy as we possibly can. Now, the key in this particular one, as I hotkey both of them in the recording, is to be able to switch between the villager and the scout very, very quickly so that you can manage to attack, and you also have to be able to switch back home fast as well. It is kind of micro and macro intensive in the beginning, but if you are able to keep track of 3 spots, then you should be okay. So I probably am not looking at this. I'm probably not looking at this. I'm probably looking at home right now to make sure that we have 7 on, well, actually it should only be 6, that we have 6 on food and 3 or 4 on wood. Now, I am going to mess up my eco balance at home a couple of times, but that's okay. Age of Empires is all about adapting. Now that that boar is dead, we're going to try and wall in these berries to the best of our ability. Lame whatever you can lame. That scout does figure out that we are there, but a loomed villager wins a fight against the scouts. This is actually very fortunate. We're getting good HP damage on that scout, and I guess we're not okay. Now we found out, and we're gonna try and wall this in as much as we can, but he's sending more villagers because I have been spotted, and once you're spotted, might have been a little bit greedy for me. I should have probably ran out. He's actually going to bring his scout in to help, and I'm going to bring my scout in to help. And let's just see what happens in this particular situation as we get terribly housed at home. But we did manage to click. And the scout just snipes him. But I snipe his scout. So a scout for a villager, I would say that's definitely worth it in my opinion. Now, have we done enough damage to red laming wise? I would argue not really. He's still able to get these berries. He's even still getting this boar. I think we might... Oh, and Feli did something. I should have done that. I should have just walled in his boar. That would have been hilarious. Walling in your opponent's boar is another thing that you can do that I didn't even think of doing in this particular situation. But we are actually sending forward 3 more Charlie's Angels in the house to finish the job that incompetent man couldn't do, because I'm a feminist, yo. I'm like super all into that stuff and veganism and equal rights and nah, man, whatever. Like, everybody just live their own life. It doesn't really matter all that much to me. I don't judge. I just play Age of Empires. I don't politics. I just Age of Empires. Now it gets a little bit tricky. So we have a control group for this woman, we have a control group for this woman, we have a control group for this woman, and we have a control group for our scouts. So our scouts over here, this woman's over here, this woman's over here, and this woman's over here. Meanwhile, we're also still trying to manage our economy, and you can see that I have an idol just chilling around. For whatever reason, during this, I didn't have... dodge keys. But this woman is now uncontested, and she's going to be able to complete those palisade walls, which is very, very favorable. This woman found some ostrich, so she's going to try and kill as many ostrich as she possibly can. So whenever I cycle back to her, I'm like, oh, okay, get the next ostrich. And then once that ostrich is dead, I'm going to, I'm cycling through now. Okay, what do I need to, where does my scout need to be? Where does this villager need to be? Where does this villager need to be? Okay, click to the next ostrich. There we go. And now I go to the next one. Okay, try and run away from her. Okay, she's done. What should we do with her? That's my thought process. And Red is having such a bad time right now that he is actually transitioning into farms. Also, a thing to note, because of all of the chaos that we have created, we are actually now up 3 villagers. There were several times in which Red forgot to create villagers because of this. So we're actually going to pull this woman back. This woman in the top over here, she's slowly dying, so that's not great. Could actually pull my scout over to help her out, but I forgot about that in the heat of the moment. Also, at home, we kind of have messed up our economy. We have way too much wood, and we don't have enough food. So I was trying to scout with my scout to see where the resources were, but actually we found them with the villagers' line of sight bubble. Of course, why not? And we're going to try and take this best we can. And a lion! Why you always lying? But that lion's actually kind of favorable. So now I realize, oh, okay, that woman's probably going to be weak enough for my scout to snipe her down. So I'm going to send my scout over here and try and pick her off. So go to my scout, click him over. And this woman is trying to make this lumber camp as inefficient as possible, but you can see that she's clicked over here, and that's not, yeah, okay, that's not perfect, but you know what? It's 1100 ELO. We try what we can, okay? Just messing around here. Make as many palisades as possible. Just really mess up my opponent's efficiency. Doesn't matter if I don't get them fully up. I want to get some down just to make everything, and these are idle now, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. Figured out that she is going to go down, so that's a nice pickoff for me right there. You kill my Charlie Angel, I kill your secret agent. That's how we roll. I have no idea. My opponent actually did manage to go to feudal faster. He had to delete his mill and build it back further just so that he could get these berries. That's inefficiency to the extreme. Talking about inefficiency, we have a total of 6 villagers chasing one. Now it's down to 1. And I figured, can I take this fight? I wasn't quite sure, especially if he does keep running after my villager. I probably can take that fight, but he does the smart thing and turns around, and then yeah, disaster. This guy is a legend in himself. He killed 2 enemies and only lost 1. So we have clicked up to feudal, and now we're going to be thinking about how do we transition? What do we transition? We have 1 on stone to collect additional stone for towers. We put that on there a bit earlier because we had that access of wood, and we're going to try and drop some towers. We're also going to transition some onto gold. 4 is a very good number for archers. We do need to build a barracks, and my opponent is up earlier, so this could actually be somewhat problematic if he's able to hit me at home early. My home is completely undefended. The only walls I built the only walls I built were the walls in my opponent's base. That's the way I like it. We are making an extra wall off over here. That's going to make it a lot easier for us to drop down a tower. Now, when you place a tower, you want to hit as much stuff as you possibly can. So I decided to go for this one right here because I figured this would range all of the berries, and once I get fletching, it would be able to range 2 of those farms as well. So that's 120 resources in wood denied, as well as all of these juicy berries that my opponent can't take anymore. We do go for the full surround because the first tower is the most vulnerable. We follow it up with an archery range. We do realize that there's a whole bunch of additional food that we're not spending. When you have resources, you want to spend your resources as quickly as you possibly can. Get military out, get villagers out. I queued up 4 villagers right away because I don't want to think about villagers for the upcoming moments. So slow to realize this. He's been idle for like a good 10 or 20 seconds. Queue up a whole bunch of archers. Realize the food. Poop Lord, come on. Realize the food. There we go. So we're going to transition him into stables and use that food as followed. We did actually manage to get a house up just in time. That was perfect. So that we didn't get housed too badly. I'm going to move over to the main gold. This tower is a transition tower. So it's not perfect, but I was figuring, okay, I'm going to get fletching pretty soon. Once I have another 150 wood in the bank, I'll probably get a blacksmith and get fletching You want your towers to range each other, and the reason that you want them to range each other is so that they can protect each other. So this was a transition tower to get into the gold, but then I realized he wasn't even on this gold over here. He was over here trying to set up some farms, and at this point, my opponent has just had enough and says, GG. Think he definitely could have played on for a little bit longer, but he's going into men-at-arms. You always want to react to what your opponent is doing, and this is not a good reaction. Archers are absolutely going to decimate men-at-arms. I could send a couple of them back just to keep myself safe at home. I think it would have been a much better transition to go for scouts, because scouts in low numbers pick off archers easy. Also, my barracks is quite forward, so having to go all the way back. But it's easy to say in the moment. He probably doesn't even know about this barracks, right? I want to take a quick look at the statistics. And yeah, so he actually killed more and lost less units, and he collected more resources, but overall he had less villagers. So that's kind of crazy if you think about all of that. He definitely could have continued, but the pressure was going to surmount very, very quickly for my opponent. Guys, thank you so much for watching. This is the Korean laming strategy into whatever. I think archers and towers makes the most sense. And the reason I think it makes the most sense is if we look at the Korean bonuses. You have those free tower upgrades. You also have stone mining a little bit faster. And you have free armors. So towers and archers makes a lot of sense. I've said for a long time that the tower rush has been dead. I think this might be a strategy to revive it. If they can do it at 1500 elo, if Philly can do this at 1500 elo, there's no reason that this shouldn't work at a lower elo. You just have to manage 3 or 4 control groups and your eco at home. Does it have to be perfect? No, it does not have to be perfect. But if you have 600 wood, spend that wood. Get a mill, get a barracks, get a mining camp, and then adjust your eco accordingly. You don't have to check in on your eco every single second as long as you are producing villagers. Once again, guys, thank you so much for walking.